Hi everyone. So you're about to hear me echo myself here in a couple minutes. I ended up recording this bit. Apparently, first off, Alexa thinks I'm talking to her. And secondly, uh, you'll probably hear me say hello again here in about 20 seconds. Well, not 20 seconds. Anyway, it's late. I'm obviously tired. But I decided to record this at the end of the session tonight. My plan was to run through all these budget friendly pencils that are under $10. As you can see, I have quite a few of them. And as you can see, after a very lengthy video, we have only got 3 down, which are all the Crayola pencils. Now, this isn't like a Doc Brown Back to the Future moment where, you don't have to go find a clock tower. Like, it's okay. Wow, that actually had a lot of connotations. I retract that joke. That was, ooh. Anyway, so what I decided to do, this was going to be just a quick review of all these, and then in the future, I was planning to come back and review them in more detail. Well, my brain is operating on efficiency, and it said, well, why do that? Why do this twice? Just get it all out tonight. So we are digging really in depth onto these colored pencils. We're going to go off a little bit from our normal coloring at any budget series, and we're just going to dig in and go as far as we can between parts. Tonight, I really want to cover the 3 Crayola brands that I have because those are the most probably accessible, the biggest variety, and some of the most well-known budget-friendly pencils out there. So this whole video is just really going to go in depth, and you can see that here. We pretty much look at everything from price to whether it's erasable, what type of color you get with pressure, using different types of blenders. We show examples. I'm also in some point in the future going to try different types of paper. That probably won't be anytime soon. But anyway, if there is something you want to know about one of these types of Crayola brands, hopefully it is answered in this series. So I will put a timestamp in the description, but I just wanted to go ahead and do an intro to, what you hear coming up is not how this goes. And so I really and truly, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. And y'all probably aren't all that surprised either, because once my mouth gets moving, it's really hard to get me stopped. So yeah, we're just doing 3 tonight, and we will continue on another day. Not putting these back to back. That's too much even for me. But anyway, enjoy. If you want to know something about these, I'll put them in each brand in a timestamp below. If you have no interest in learning about Crayolas, you might want to skip this one, at least for the colored pencils. Anyway, thanks guys, and I guess through the magic of video software, I'll talk to you in like half a second. Bye. Hi everyone, and hopefully you have had a wonderful weekend. I am recording this Sunday night. I ran out of pre-recorded videos, and the last couple have been flip-throughs, and oddly enough, tonight I'm still not doing a color and chat. So yeah, it's been a few videos, which technically I guess I'm coloring a little bit tonight, but you'll understand that one in a minute. Anyway, I've been wanting to get to this. This is going to be the next segment of the Color at Any Budget series. We are still in the under $10 group, and we so far have covered water-based markers and alcohol-based markers. So now we're shifting to probably the one thing most people are curious about, which is colored pencils. And this is going to be a multi-part episode because, oh my good gracious, I think I have 13 brands of budget-friendly pencils. So yeah, we're not going to be able to do all this in one video, but we will muddle through it as best as we can. Anyway, so I'm sitting here trying to think of what I was trying to say. Not having a good time of it. Tonight, for the first part of this, I will be running through all the different brands, talking about them in terms of color variety, what the packaging looks like, how they look, how much pressure you have to put on them, just some basic things that most people would want to know regarding colored pencils. And I know most people I know end up starting out with adult coloring with colored pencils. That's how I started out. So with starting out with markers, that seemed a little odd, I'm sure, but since colored pencils are usually a more popular choice, but there was a method to my madness there. At some point, I want to color a couple pictures, and I want to be able to use like marker as a base with colored pencil over the top. And at that point, you'll have seen all of them. So they're pretty much kind of building on each other, and that's the way I'm trying to portray them. Now, real quick, I think I might have my lighting figured out finally. It took some effort. I've spent a whole weekend kind of reorganizing the room a little bit. Hopefully this will be what we use going forward. I say that, and then next video it's not going to look the same. So we'll just be glad it's here for this video. But yeah, we have 13 brands. I am not going to continue to prattle on because we need to get rolling. My husband was visiting family this weekend, and we haven't had a chance. My husband's a huge Star Wars fan, and we haven't had a chance to see the new Han Solo movie. So I would like for us to be able to watch that tonight before we start our work week. And yeah, so let's see. I'm not getting both parts recorded, at least not together. All right. So for those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. For those of you that are not so new, this will probably look a little familiar to you. Starting with just some separate gel pen reviews that I wanted to do, I figured out the best way for me to do reviews, and that is to create a spreadsheet using Google Sheets, one tab for each type of art supply. And I've listed a bunch of things in there, like the company that owns it, the link to the company, the link to where I purchased the product, and what the price was at the time of purchase, things like that, where probably, if you really wanted to see at a glance what a couple different brands look like, hopefully that would be a good resource. I will be putting the link in the bottom in the description of this email. I will also put the links to the other parts of this series, and I also put this in the description. But anyway, we're just going to look over it really, really quickly. Okay. So for any coloring or art supply reviews, I went ahead and typed up a basic disclaimer because this is going to apply to everything. It's in the spreadsheet, it's going to be in the description, so if you get upset or been out of shape about something that was covered here, I gave you every opportunity to see it. So, and I'm talking about it. Basically, all this is saying is any of the products that I'm reviewing, unless I state otherwise, I do not. I was not provided the products for free or for a review. So all these were my own personal purchases. The prices that are on the spreadsheet are going to be the ones that I see on the sites where I purchased the product on the date of review. So all of these will be prices as of October 21st or something. Prices change all the time with Sharpies and such, and then with these types of colored pencils, they change constantly. So I'm not going to guarantee this price. So keep that in mind. A lot of that may depend too on where you live, if you're able to shop at that store, which I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Oh, did I not put it here? I could have sworn I put it here. Okay, well anyway, no, I may have left this part out. So with this as well, I realized that in other countries you may not be able to purchase from Amazon or Walmart or a place like that. I will do my best to provide links and product reviews down the road that hopefully can include some brands that aren't, very difficult to get and are little, yeah, like the Micador Color Rush pencils. I've been really curious about those for a while. So I'd like to be able to add in some products like that that are a little more common, say, in certain areas of the world. But for right now, we're just going to stick with what I could find when I walked in a store, pretty much, or on Amazon. So I'll do the best I can, though, to find products that are internationally sold. So this is going to be just a pretty thorough review. I'm going to try to give pros and cons. I'm going to try really hard not to say this just plain stinks. I've had there's a couple in the past I've had struggles coming up with a pro, but while I give my own suggestions on stuff, I am not the end all be all of these things. Every person in their situation ends up needing a different type of pencil. So I'm just showing these to you from my observation and my needs. And, you know, some of these are very inexpensive brands, and so this kind of leads me down here. See, 10 minutes in, hadn't even started. No, it's more like 8, but we're getting there. One note I put on here, though, is that, like, some of the brands on here are probably only a couple dollars, and the price may seem fantastic, but at the end of the day, if you try out the pencils and you're like, oh my god, these suck, and you throw them away and never use them, is that a better bargain than buying a $4 or $5 pack of pencils and actually using them? For me personally, I feel like the best bargain products are the ones I'm going to use the most, and if I love them and I use them all the time, then that's a better deal for me in the long run. So any Amazon links that are in the spreadsheet are going to be affiliate links. Any Amazon links in the description are going to be affiliate links. I'm sure you've seen this, but on other channels, I'm an Amazon affiliate. If you go to that link and purchase a product, then I will get a small referral bonus of like literally a few cents. But though all that together will go towards purchasing other stuff for the site, and it does not add to the price of the product. The price does not change because it's an affiliate link. So, like I said, you've seen all this before, but for the newbies, first off, welcome. This week has been a little scattered. Hell, my last 4 months have been scattered. I counted back, y'all. I counted back from, let's see, I started this channel about mid-June, no, the start of June. So you got June, July, August, and September. You got about 4.5 months right now. Guys, it feels like it could have been a year. I cannot tell you how, I can't believe that's how short of a time span this has went with the chaos that is my life. But we will muddle through this and we'll do the best we can do. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about each product, and maybe I will if I can pull up, there we go. I'm going to tell you a little bit about each product. I'm also going to shorten this window so I can actually make sure the camera's recording. Alright, there we go. I'm going to tell you a little bit about each product, and we're going to go through some basic stuff here. I will zoom in so you can see this a little better. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to run through a basic introduction of all these. Try a few things with them to see what may or may not work if you want to do some different technique stuff with these. Then, if I have time, I would like to be able to, you know, that wasn't even the right paper. This is the right one. I took out some columns because it seemed like really tiny text, so there we go. That's the paper we're going to use. And there are, yep, 13. Oh boy. That seemed like an awful unlucky number of pencils here. I don't know what that means, but I'm a little scared of it. I don't need any more bad luck. Like, let's not go there. I'm also, if I have time, going to show you, this has been photocopied from Halloweenscapes, which is a Dover coloring book. It is by Jessica Mazurkowicz. Yes, I have a number of her books. So, Anyway, I wanted to pick a similar picture so I could show you, like, between the three standard colors for each one, how they blend together, how they look together. That's what we're going to do tonight. Then part 2, I am actually going to show you how they work on a variety of books. I'm going to take this to another level. I am constantly changing how I do these, trying to figure out what works well and what doesn't, so don't worry, I will get back around to the other ones, probably more in-depth reviews of all these down the road, but for now, we're just going to do a quick one. Part 2 will be coloring in 3 different types of paper. The Create Space paper, this is Jade Summer, is a popular one. We're going to use Creative Haven as a medium quality paper, and that is from Flower Mandalas. And then finally we're going to look at a higher quality paper like Joanna Basford's books, and we're going to color some in here too. Just to kind of give you a good variety of how these translate to, it's not just the pencil itself, it's the paper you're coloring on. That's like one of the most valuable lessons I learned at the beginning. You can make amazing things happen if you have watercolor paper with Crayola watercolors pencils. Trust me, I've done a video on that one and I loved it. Anyway, this is on like a medium quality cardstock, so is this sheet. So you'll get kind of middle of the road. You'll get a middle of the road test tonight. And now that I've spent all this time doing this, I would like to actually be able to write down timestamps as I'm going. I said that last time and forgot. Because as always, in the description, I will put timestamps for specific brands if you're just curious about specific ones. I don't want to waste anybody's time. Hopefully this is helpful. I've gotten a pretty good response on my other videos, so hopefully this is a good resource now and then in the future as well. What am I looking for here? I am looking for a regular ink pen. Out of all the things on this desk, the thing I'm having trouble locating is a standard pen. Okay, timestamps. We're gonna be at roughly 4:15. So I'm gonna grab these as best as I remember, and we're just gonna go from there. Not in any particular. Well, we'll just go in order of what's on the sheet. Alright, let me zoom in just a little so y'all can see specifically, use your words, Michelle, enunciate, so y'all can see exactly what we're working on. Okay, so now, oh, this is gonna be fun. I need to have my husband volunteer to sit here and write down timestamps for me. That would be pretty funny. We'll do this at the 15-minute mark. We'll just say to heck with it. And we'll go to there. Alright, so the very first product doesn't even really have a box because I got rid of the box a while back. So the first one we're going to cover are the Crayola Twistables. I got smart this time. I picked out my pencils beforehand, and then I taped them all together so I wouldn't get confused between the brands. Like, you know, that hasn't happened before. Of course, a pair of scissors or a knife would be helpful in this case. Probably not a knife because I'd probably wind up cutting myself. And there is a really funny, well, not so funny, but there's a really good story involving using a box cutter as a grown man, but not going to talk about that one tonight. Alright, so there we go. See, I told you these timestamps are not going to happen. They're just not. I don't know who I'm fooling. Apparently myself. So, okay. We'll say 16 minutes in for the Twistables. So, these are your Crayola Twistable. These are the colored pencil version. Now, Crayola does have a twistable version of their crayons. I may have some of those, but these are their actual colored pencils. I bought the 18 set. I do not have a box to show you because that is long gone. And, where did I put them? There they are. For an 18 set, well, I could not find the 18th set of these anywhere. That is a rant for at the end of this video, because I want to go ahead and get into this. But I had the hardest time finding information about this stuff on colored pencils. By far have been the hardest thing to find online, like the types of packs that I bought and stuff, so I can give you an accurate price. They're constantly changing, at worse than Sharpies in Bic marking. But for some reason, all I can find is a 30 pack for $6, and I believe that's at Walmart. Let me take a look real quick. No, that is Amazon. My bad. But anyway, like I said, they probably just do a variety of packs on these, so you're looking at roughly $6 for a 30 pack. These do not have names on them. Obviously, they look a lot different than your typical colored pencils, because obviously they're twistable. And I did not know that there were any other type of mechanical colored pencils until I saw some the other day. I think it's June Gold is the brand. Didn't even know. But anyway, so we're going to take the blue one for this one. And of course the name, that's how you deal with it. You just twist it up till you get some lead. And one of the, I guess, bonuses of this is you don't ever really have to sharpen these, because of course all you gotta do, it's like any mechanical pencil. Now, this first area here, I'm going to do a very light pressure, a medium, and a heavy pressure. So, let me twist that up a little bit more. Alright, because, well, that might have been too far. There we go. When I first started coloring and getting involved in art, colored pencils were one of the things that what I was initially drawn to. That's why I figured more people would be interested in this one than the markers, especially people just starting out. One of the big things when it comes to colored pencils is pressure, and sometimes if you put a heavier pressure on it, you can get some better blending, more vibrant colors obviously, but there is something to be said for layering in really light layers like this, and I know you can barely see it, but in doing that you can really build a number of nice layers, especially if you're blending with other colors. So now normally you want to do little circles instead of the lines, but we will focus more on that in the second part. Right now I'm just mostly trying to show y'all what the color differences are. This is also useful to know for anybody with hand, wrist, elbow, back issues, like if you're bearing down on a paper for too long trying to color. It can really make your wrist hurt, and I have been involved in computers for over 20 years now, and it has really caused some issues with my wrists and stuff. So that kind of stuff's important to me, like the soft and the hard lead, because if I have to press down a bunch to get what I want, my wrist is gonna start aching within the half hour. I wouldn't say these are a hard lead. They're probably, but they're not really a soft, so it's more of like a medium, I guess. I know that's not really a thing, but that's the best way I can describe it. Erasable. Okay, well, we're going to roll right back here and use this. So y'all can, no, actually we're not, because I want to be able to compare those at the end. So we're going to do the same thing under the erasable column. So we're going to have, and to really get that light layering kind of color, go way back on your pencil like this. You'll be a lot less likely to have your we fondly, us people that love that, fondly refer to as death grip. You don't have to worry so much about that. It's hard to train your brain on that. It took me a long time. Even now, there's some people I can watch on YouTube, and they will do like 10 or 12 layers and get these just amazing blends and colors because they spent so long on it. And I'm just not that patient a person myself. I don't mind watching others do it, but I'm not going to do it. myself. I just can't. So that's why I said, for these, everybody's different. Everybody has a different need. Now, for the eraser, I'm just using one of these little standard click kind of erasers you can get at any pretty much Walmart, any type of discount store. I like these. These are kind of a middle of the road in terms of precision. I have eraser pencils that are Faber-Castell. Those are probably my main ones to use, as I can get into little areas with them, and I'm messy when I erase, and I wind up not only erasing what I wanted to, but everything else around it. So those little pencils come in really handy for that detail work, and I might actually show you those at some point. But I figured this was a good kind of in the middle eraser. There we go. So, yeah, I mean, and this is another benefit to using the light layers. As you can see here, you almost can't even see the color. If you're coloring a picture and you really, really want to, you're not sure about a color for a certain section, so you're just trying something, go with the lightest layer you can, and then if you look at it and you go, okay, I don't really like this color in this section, it's going to be a lot easier to erase it and go over the top of it. You may not be able to do so otherwise. So, alright, blendable. What do I mean by blendable? Well, a lot of times with your budget pencils, you are limited to a certain number of colors. There are going to be smaller packs, usually. So it comes in handy if it's something you're interested in doing. Again, none of this stuff is like a requirement for coloring. I'm just trying to show a variety of things that I think most people would be curious about. So what would be good is if you could blend two different colors together in your colored pencils to get the color that, maybe a color that you don't have. So suddenly your 12 pack of pencils gives you, way more options when it comes to color. So I'm just doing a standard blue over red, and I'm doing multiple layers. I'm not super light with this because I don't think that's necessary for this part of the thing. So as you can see, I'm actually getting a pretty decent green with that. I am pleasantly surprised. I might have went, no, this was right. I was right. Okay, cool. So yeah, with these you can actually get some really nice blended colors with them. So, I'm going to do this for the next three, because I want to show something. Okay, so, especially if you're new to coloring, most of you that aren't are probably familiar with this, but one of the biggest problems with colored pencils and paper is that some paper is toothy or tough. We'll call it just rough paper. And rough paper causes basically when you're coloring, you're not getting a solid color. You're getting like these little white spots everywhere. It's like if you're using a really rough paper and really soft pencils, you're going to get like a whole lot worse white space than you would otherwise. But there are tricks to being able to it kind of melts the pigment and then mushes it all together to give you a little bit more solid color. I'm not going that far with that one. There are a few different things you can use to do that, so that's what we're going to look at. I'm not, other than using the blender pencil and some of the marker, I don't typically use these, but, so we're going to see how this goes, but I thought I would at least try. It would also help if I had this in camera. Okay. Oh, I know what I was doing there. Okay, well, we'll leave that as is for the moment. Okay, so like I said, we're going to try using a Prismacolor blender pencil. And these are fairly inexpensive. Sorry I hit the mic. These are fairly inexpensive. Anytime you blend with them, always scratch them on a piece of paper before you move to another color, because you don't want to run the risk of it will hold the last color that you used it for. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to put like multiple layers here so we can, because really what this does is it's supposed to really push the pigment together. one of the biggest challenges for budget-friendly pencils is the lack of pigment. So that's why I think this test is important to show. There is also burnishing, which I think I meant to put on here and I forgot. But we'll take a closer look at that later. So with a blender pencil, once you get as much color on there as you can, you just start going over it. If you are like me and you're a rebel and you don't ever remember to actually use little circles and you get those lines, this type of pencil is fantastic for smoothing those out and giving you a nicer blend. Good Lord, this may be a 3-part video. So, and that's one thing too I did not mention was like dust. The softer the lead, the more bits of color you're going to get that kind of come up on the surface when you're coloring. Like the ones you have to constantly dust off or blow off your paper. If you dust them and they're really soft, they could smear the paper, or smear on the paper. So there's the blender pencil, which did actually a pretty good job, honestly. So with my mineral spirits blender, I am using a method I saw Aaron at Simple Art for Adults use, and I bought an empty Copic marker and I filled it with the mineral spirits because these make me nervous. Now, you don't have to do it that way. I think I'm mixing some red in this because I just did what I told y'all not to do. Never fails here on Coloring Chats and Cats. For a minute there, I really was going to mess that up. I'm like, dang, everybody else, you know, guys, the thing is, every time I hear somebody mention my channel, and they're like, I think I got that right. Guys, as long as you get, you could just say 3 C's with Michelle or something. I get you. I get what you, that's fine. I mean, it's close enough. Hell, half the time I don't even remember the order, so that'd be awful if I expected everybody else to. Okay. Yeah, this is taking way longer than I thought it would. Now, if you don't have that type of setup with the empty marker, you can dip like a little cotton ball or something in your mineral spirits and like do that in a well ventilated area. That's what makes me nervous about them, is that they are like, you don't want to inhale it very much. I also don't want, like, obviously my husband or my cats to have to smell that, so that's why the marker works well for me. But you can use a cotton ball and a little paper stump like this to achieve a similar effect. Actually, when I did it with a pen and I went back over it with the stump, that made the biggest difference. Huh. I was not getting this good of results. I have already done this video once and I wasn't happy with it. I'd rather go slow with these and split it up over multiple parts at this point, because I don't want to have to come back and do a lot of this again. If I'm going to look at any different tests with them in the future, I want to look at how they actually do in coloring books. So the other method is you can actually blend with a alcohol-based marker. Now this is a Cali Art. Most of your mid to high range markers come with a colorless blender. So like this one, it just has 0 on it. It's clear. Generally with those, when you, I'm trying to think, and all it has is it's just alcohol, the alcohol base in here. There is no pigment. Typically, if you're working on a page that is like marker friendly and the ink stays on the surface longer, this comes in handy for helping you blend in colors. It can also work on colored pencils in terms of actually breaking down the wax and kind of pushing everything together. So, and I'll be using some of these, showing how they work in the books. I will be using some of these methods because that's the whole reason I started this series. Because I was one of them. I was in this situation where you see people just come up with these like really amazing pictures, and sometimes you get discouraged because you're like, okay, well, I can't run out and buy a whole set of Prismas, or I can't even get a basic set of Prismas or something. I'm never going to be able to color like that, and I don't ever want anybody to feel that way. You can make some pretty awesome things happen on Create Space paper with just regular markers. I mean, or any other combination. So, wait, I've got one more. This is not right. Hang on. We're going to see if it works with other brands in the future. We're not going to do that right now. So this is a Blender water-based marker. And this came with my Tombos. And I was just curious. I don't know if I've seen anybody try this one. N00 is, again, no pigment to it at all. It's supposed to do the same job. And again, with any of your blenders, always use a scratch piece of paper to get rid of any extra pigment from the previous work. With those little stumps, a little piece of like coarse sandpaper will help really get the color off of those. So, and mineral spirits, I believe, are fairly inexpensive, like if you just wanted a small amount of them. Just the fact that they just the whole ventilation thing bothers me. I've used fixative in a couple of my books too, but that one makes me nervous too. Okay, so the water-based marker looked like a complete disaster. Now I know why I hadn't seen anybody do it. So for these Twistables, ignoring this little red here because I didn't do what I was needed to do, the Blender pencil and the mineral spirits actually do a decent job of covering all those little white pieces. And this is that medium cardstock like the other picture is that I showed you. Water-based blender, negative. The alcohol marker didn't do as well either. So a small pack of a couple blender pencils is relatively inexpensive. So that, or using the mineral spirits, and those little stumps are inexpensive too. Those are some great options for taking, you know, what would be a budget-friendly colored pencil to a whole different level. Now, yeah, we ain't getting through all these, but that's okay. That's fine. I will make sure the description is up to date. Okay, what am I doing? Yes. So now, what we're going to do is take our paper that I printed. I did this the other day. And we're going to see how they all, like, multiple twistable pencils work together. Now, and like I said, this is the same image. I'm picking roughly 4 on here and doing the end of the broom just for consistency's sake. Now, okay, so when you're using multiple colored pencils together to get a blend, for anybody that's new to this whole world here, and the first thing I want to say is, please, I know it's overwhelming at times. There are so many different options out there, and I'm doing probably one of the things I told you not to do. So I went through every set of pencils that I'm reviewing, and what I did was I picked a yellow, a orange, and a brown if possible. If I couldn't, I know that sounds weird, if I couldn't find a brown, I had to move to like a darker orange or like a mahogany or something. So you may see some of that. Alright, so when you're blending together colors, I have seen around, Jennifer Stay at Coloring Bliss has, I've watched a lot of her videos where she calls it Jennifer's blending rules of thirds, but it is like the truth. I don't know, I'm sure a bunch of people came up with that, but it really does hold water, so to speak. And basically what it is when you want to create a true blend of colors, 3 pencils usually work the best, and that has been my experience with it. 2 do okay, and I've never tried any beyond the 3, but I mean, that holds true from my experience too. Of course, only 4.5 months, so take that with a grain of salt. So I'm using orange as kind of a middle color. What I tried to do, and I was pressing too hard at the beginning, a light layer of the yellow all the way across whatever I'm coloring. Now, the yellow is going to be featured here, and then I'll want it to kind of gradually move into this orange. So we're going to start at the middle where I want the orange to be, and we're just going to work our way back down as well. And like I said, using a pretty light layer. Now, I might be going over the top in terms of layering and blending and stuff, but I find this method works the best for me. So again, your mileage may vary. See, this one's so light you can't even really see it. But that's okay, because we're going to go back over and it'll be a little more obvious at that point. I could not find a brown in these, so this is probably more of like a brownish red. I wish I had the box and I could really show you all the color varieties, because that's one of the things I try to look for any product like this that I'm reviewing. And the Twistables had a fair, so I think there's like a standard color variety. So when you buy a small pack of pencils, markers, gel pens, whatever, there's some basic colors that are pretty much universal regardless of what product you're looking at. And usually that includes, like, a red, yellow, orange, blue, purple, green, brown, and a black. A lot of times they give white colored pencils, which I do not have much experience with, but that would actually be a really interesting test to do in the future, is do those white colored pencils actually work well? Like Prismacolor white colored pencils are used frequently, as are like the luminance ones and stuff, because they can change the color that you're putting them over. Some are opaque, some are more translucent. Okay. So what am I doing now? I am putting pretty much medium pressure on this darkest color here at the end. So we went from lightest to darkest, and now with the medium pressure I'm going from darkest to lightest. And I may do that one more time, and then we are going to burnish with the yellow. And for those of you who don't know what that means, basically when you burnish, there are pencils out there that are different from the blender pencils. They're called burnishers. I don't use those very often. Typically what you do is you take a color or that burnisher pencil and you push as hard as you can to blend all this together, and basically it goes ahead and smushes it down to like a smooth paper instead of toothy, and after that point it's really hard to blend any colors or add any. So you got to be really sure. That's another good lesson for pressure, because if you're pressing too hard to begin with, you're gonna burnish your paper, and I do that even now a lot. So I am not sitting here saying everybody else does it. Hell, I do it some days. It's especially hard when I'm using a really soft leaded pencil, because I feel like I can color for longer and use more pressure. And that's where things get dangerous, because then I start pressing down too hard to begin with, and that just causes a lot of problems down the road for me. Alright, so we're just going to do one more little quick run. Now, is this the way you're supposed to color? No. This is the way I color with colored pencils, which is probably why I tend to use markers more, because these take a lot longer. I should really use them more. I need to get back and practice with them. But sorry, I'm sitting here in my head saying, every time I say I'm like smacking myself. There needs, see, I would put it, it's like I put like the equivalent of a swear jar here if I didn't think I would just constantly say to fill the jar so I can go and buy more coloring stuff with it. Like, that doesn't sound like that would, and like too, that doesn't sound like that would work too well, so maybe not. Anyway, like I said, sometimes when I'm coloring with colored pencils, I just want to do my death grip thing. If I'm using Crayolas, after 30 minutes, my wrist won't let me do that anymore. But like with Prismas, because they're softer, I can do that too. which is why knowing how much pressure you've got to put down on this is important, I think, for a lot of us, because there's so many of us with carpal tunnel or other issues with our wrists, our backs. So now, what? And I'm going to turn it this way so it's easier. So now I'm going to just go over with the yellow. Go over it all. And the reason I like doing this instead of using a burnisher pen is it helps really create kind of a good blend and gradient between the colors that you're using when you do it this way. Because you're kind of filling in all those gaps that kept the colors separated, and this is really bringing them together. Now, here's a question. But Crayolas are some of the hardest lead pencils I've used, and so that's why I use them as kind of a comparison. These, I don't believe, or you don't have to go as much pressure with these, but it's not that different. Like I said, these are more of a medium based, medium kind of lead. So we're just going to write Crayola Twistables here, so we know. Now, in looking at this, they blended pretty good together. The yellow is really vibrant. The orange and the reddish orange, maybe, not so much. So you do get a little washout of color, but if you're not looking for a lot of bold, vibrant, like some people can color with these really soft pastel colors and like pastels, and they look amazing, and I'm jealous of that because I just can't do it. I can start off meaning well to do that, and then it always ends up being like bright yellow, bright purple, bright green. Anyway, there's a lot of talented people that can do that, and so if that's your preferred way of coloring, these might be a good fit for you. And they're decent budget size. Color variety, like I said, they have the orange, red. It's really hard to tell the differences in the colors just from the pencils, though. And they don't have names, so it's, like I said, this one I had to go through like all the reddish looking ones just to figure out which ones were legit reds. So that's kind of a downside to them as well. Okay. 45 minutes later, she's only done one pencil. Well, I tell y'all what. We are going to go through the other two Crayolas, since these are all Crayola brands. We're going to do that. And then I think we will continue on in part 2. Now, I was smart enough to put all these together. Now let's see if I was smart enough to figure out what's what. And we're going to sit here and go through every pack here. I tried my best to, they're going to be on the very bottom. That's just like, that's no surprise to me. There's one. But I'm glad I did this. And also, like I said, some of these I could find browns, some of these I couldn't. And I know it seems weird, but I promise you, some of these did not have browns, even in their, like, basic set. Okay, so, and this is another reason. So you look at these, and they look pretty much exactly the same, right? They're both Crayolas. They both have the names of the colors on the pencils. This is between the Crayola Standard and the Crayola well, call them like a premium colored pencil. And so we're going to do the basic set that you're familiar with first. Okay, I think it's this one. The first round I did this with, I ended up, I think I got these mixed up, hence, that is why I am using, where did I put that thing? Did it? Yeah, there it goes. Which is one of the reasons why I didn't want to post that one. And that's the reason why I did this part, which is, again, very organized of me, but then also I didn't think to how to get the tape off. Okay. Oh, and that was one other thing. So with the Twistables, this wasn't necessarily a really big deal, but because you don't sharpen these, obviously. But I would say, let's see, for the amount of that we used it on this, I'm trying to see. Let's just do it this way. You're like, oh my gosh. I must be telling a lot of lies. Anyway, this is how much lead you have in the Crayola Twistable Colored Pencils. It pretty much runs the length of the barrel. It didn't go down as much. I think these would last a while. These do not seem like they, and being medium pressured lead, that's not necessarily a surprise. The softer the pencil, the quicker you will have to replace it. Okay. Okay. So these are your Crayola student. These are the ones that are probably in a bunch of everybody's. If anybody's ever had a colored pencil stash in their lifetime, or has kids that have colored pencil stash, they probably have at least a basic set of Crayolas in them. So these are, like I said, a gold standard, so to speak. Now, there is a standard 12-pack for them. Let me look this up. Okay, those are it. The 12-pack is $1.84 at Walmart, which definitely is a good price. I do not necessarily have the 12-pack, but I wanted to tell y'all the smallest one. What I did was I did go out and get their 100 set, which is their biggest set. Those you can find for $10 on Walmart's site. You can find, for some reason, I don't find really good prices on Crayola products, Crayola colored pencils, or the super tips on Amazon. They're always overpriced, and Amazon hardly ever sells them themselves. And we're going to show with sharpening these. Now, this, of course, you have your name down here, which is in some different translations. So I'm sure these are sold in quite a few places. And yeah, so this got a little dull. I'm going to go ahead and sharpen it. This is a Prismacolor sharpener, by the way. I figure might as well move along while I'm talking. So what I did was these student grade ones were a part of the big box of random colored pencils I got from my brother a few years back, but I wanted to go ahead and get the 100 set. Fortunately, I found it at right around back to school, the 100 pack for like right at $10 at Walmart. And alright, so we're going with Crayola student. We're also using a blue here, so but that was like a really good deal for them. I think they are probably closer to $15 now. So what I would suggest is if you do like just your standard Crayola student grade pencils, wait till like a back to school sale. If you really want the 100 set, wait for like a back to school. That may happen over the holidays too. They obviously ran a sale on it for back to school stuff, and so that's how I got these for got the 100 count for $10. And of course I love them, so sorry, I was trying to make these as consistent together so it didn't look like way off. There we go. So now this looks like it's a little more solid color. My light keeps, I don't know what's happening. I should have never said I think I got my lighting figured out. That was just bound to jinx this situation. So with the soft and hard lead, these are definitely a hard lead. These are the ones I was talking about. Like the other night, I was coloring in. Like I said, since I said we're only getting through Crayola this time, I have some time. Well, y'all are sitting there like, oh good God. Okay, this is a perfect example. I'm still working on the background, so please ignore that for the moment. So this picture I was working on last week, and this little chick here, all of this is done with Crayola student grade pencils. I used 3 different colors for this. It was like a lemon yellow, standard yellow, and then more like an orange color. After coloring him, I hadn't even finished him, but after half an hour my wrist was killing me. And I used, light, medium, and heavy pressures on this. So this is a very hard lead. If you have issues with carpal tunnel and such, please keep that in mind. Now, I do, but I still love them. So I just try to find ways around that. And that will be something we can talk about in a minute. Right now, I was trying to find my stupid pen. Nope, gonna grab another one. There we go. So definitely a hard lead. Cat hairs. Honestly, I think these are some of the hardest leaded pencils in the pack, or in this set. But another advantage to that is they will last a lot longer because they're so hard leaded. Hard leaded. Well, I'm hard headed, so I guess I don't think that's the same thing. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, my random box of colored pencils and markers still has a home here. I keep it in the living room, and a lot of times when I'm coloring pictures and sitting on the couch, like I probably will be here in a bit, I try to use mostly what's in those bins so I don't have to drag a bunch of my stuff in there. It's one of the downsides to having the sort by color system that I have, is that if I want a specific color for a project in the living room, I'm going to have to come in here and get it, or just drag a bunch of them out with me, and I don't like having to do that. Because that box is not going to have all the colors, especially grays and browns. That's where a lot of your other marker sets really shine. So, and probably, well, colored pencils are probably a little better, but using this thing again. There was no pencil dust off of this either. Again, with it being such a hard lead, that is no surprise. This, when I was a kid, any store you walked into, whether it was Walmart or I'm trying to think of another one, like Fred's, Dollar General, pretty much any store you walked into, like you could walk into a department store, and I always saw either Crayola or Rose Art. Now it's Crayola and Crazy Art, so I don't know what happened there, but anyway. So, not quite as erasable as the Twistable, but with the lightest layer, you can still get it down pretty good. If you've been using other pressure, you're going to have a hard time of it, which is pretty much matching to what the other one was. So, and I mean, that's obvious from this list. I have 3 different ones from Crayola to try. Would have only been the 2 had I not found the premium level colored pencils at Ollie's for like $2. It was just going to be these 2, because I wasn't about to pay for those. I wanted to know if they were any better, but I didn't want to pay for them. Like, pay big, so Ollie's helped me out yet again. Maybe didn't help my bank account any. Though I think that day I didn't get very many coloring books. I focused more on pencils and pens and gel pens. For once. I don't think I've been back to that in like at least a month. Oh my goodness. I'm surprised they're not sending me emails like, are you okay? We haven't seen you come in here in quite a while, and are you dead? Oh my gosh, that actually reminds me. Well, hang on, give me a second, and I'll tell y'all as we're working on the other. And I know I didn't sharpen this yellow, and that's probably driving y'all crazy. I'm sorry. Anyway, probably about the same as the Twistable. I don't think there's anything new there in terms of that. And you're probably thinking, like, why go through all these different ones? They all are the same probably type of lead and same type of color, same type of pigment and whatnot. And the thing I would say on that is that's true. I mean, they're all at their core probably has the same kind of pigment, but what really makes a difference between like a student grade and a premium grade coloring pencil or marker or what have you is usually the level of pigment versus filler. the cheaper the pencil is, more than likely you're going to have more filler than pigment. And so when you're trying to blend, like I'm going to do in these, if you recall, I said, oh gosh, brain is slowly falling to pieces. But when you heard me say about the pigment earlier with these, that it melts the pigment together. Well, if it doesn't have a lot of pigment to begin with, it's going to just smear it around. And you're going to get kind of a streakiness to it, which I've had happen, even with some middle grade pencils. So that's why. If they're marketing it as a adult level or premium brand or whatever, that should mean it has more pigment than the ratio of pigment to filter is going to be a whole lot different than it would have been with it should be from the student grade. And that's why I was curious about the ones being marketed to adults for Crayola, because they look exactly the same, with one small difference I will point out when we get to the premium one. And it's a hard one to see, let me tell you. Okay, so we're going to try the blender pencil. And I'm going to go ahead and clean it off so we can keep this, not bringing any extra color from one to the other. But, and I completely lost my train of thought, because there was something really fun. Oh, yeah, about Ollie's emailing me to ask me if I'm still, quote, alive. This weekend, my husband had to travel out of town to visit family. Unfortunately, with the stomach issues that I have, I wasn't able to go. So I spent a lot of time, not as much time as I thought I would, coloring. I spent most of yesterday and today organizing. But I was looking for something to watch on Netflix, and Netflix suggested the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Yeah, I think it's right. Anyway, it's one of those shows like I've heard of over and over. Didn't really know anything about it. Sorry, I hit the mic. Just happened to come across it on YouTube. I watched the trailer and figured out what the plot was, and if it involves a bunker or something, usually I am like right on it, but it wasn't quite what I expected. But it was interesting enough that I thought, well, I'm going to give this a try. Guys, I have not laughed that hard for that long in probably months. It won me over in that first episode. That, it gets a little too goofy for me sometimes, but oh my gosh. I tell you what, Lillian is my spirit animal. For those of you that have seen it, you're probably shaking your head going, oh god, I'm going to unsubscribe from her channel. Because she crazy. I'm sitting here thinking that when I get to be older, I'm going to be a cross between Betty White, Dame Maggie Smith, and now Lillian. And possibly a little bit of the crazy cat lady from The Simpsons. I mean, I can't rule that out at all. So, that one's just a given, though. That's like a default. And depending on how chaotic my life continues to be, the ratio of Lillian and crazy cat lady to the other two might be a whole lot different than I want it to be. So far, the blender pencil did great. The mineral spirits did surprisingly well. I'm making really good progress using that with the stump. I hadn't had a lot of luck with using it in the past, but that right there seems to be the key for me. So I am happy to find that. And a lot of it depends on the paper. I had a book with a completed page last month called Cat and Dog See the World. And it is a Dover publication, but it's on the cheaper paper instead of the Creative Haven version. And I just went with budget-friendly pencils on it, and I put the blender pencil to it, not expecting much. And lo and behold, it blended everything beautifully. And that's the best I've ever seen a blender pencil do with like Crayolas and Rose Arts and stuff. So, alright, we're going to try this one again. Not that I think it's going to accomplish anything. But now for my own curiosity, I want to know if this does anything. Or whether this was a sin against nature and I never need to do it again. Okay. Yeah, it seems like the water-based one tends to push the pigment around more. I'd be curious to try that on the higher level ones and do that. I totally got off track of conversation. But we are going to roll back to this. What I have for this is, oh, I said a yellow, an orange, and a brown. So, yeah, we're just going to go with the standards. This would probably be more likely what you'd find in the smaller packs. So, in the bigger packs, they have some very interesting names, like Fuzzy Wuzzy. And, no Fuzzy Wuzzies today, unfortunately. So, I'm using the Prisma with these. Now, with softer lead pencils, you usually have to be very careful when you sharpen these. Crayolas, I have an electric sharpener I need to plug up. That's what I probably use for these. And then you just get a nice point. There's nothing too difficult about it. But, anyway, within the first episode of that Kimmy Schmidt show, I was just hooked. And again, all weekend, I have laughed and binge watched. And this is what made me think of that. I was going to say, you have just found a show that you are going to binge watch when, like, 2 or 3 episodes in, they keep checking after so many episodes to make sure you're still alive. And if you see that pop up, then yep. I've seen that pop up quite a few times, actually. It's a perfect show to color with, because it had new things happening, and it wasn't just like, I end up completely tuned out of the episode, but it's just enough going on, but not so much that I have to be, like, paying attention all the time, or else I'm going to miss it, so. Anyway, I always love that Netflix is like, do you want to continue watching this? Which, again, as I've seen in other places, does that translate to, are you still alive? Have your cats finally had enough of your shenanigans and decide to take you out? Because I'm telling y'all, I have had visions of how I will leave this mortal realm, will be tripping over a cat. Either Bagheera, the husky one at 20-something pounds, or Oreo, for some reason, really likes to dart out under my legs. I don't know why. I don't know what their plan is, but they are super patient with it. They are playing the long game, evidently. I guess they have meetings and decide, well, we're going to kill her this week. But then after a couple hours, they remember, oh yeah, she's got thumbs. We all love wet food, so maybe we should wait. So yeah, I guess this is kind of a color in chat. Not really how I intended it to be, but because I'm so slow, I guess that's what this is turning into. So yeah, I just posted to Instagram, since I officially have my phone back today. We only have one cell phone, because if he leaves the house, more than likely we're leaving together. We both work from home, or he's just running errands or whatever. We both work from home, and with some of the things I do right now and whatnot, I justifiably have a cell phone, and really we need at least one. But there wasn't sense in having two if, like, one of them never got used. So because of the distance, though, I did not want him traveling without one. So it's just in case he had car trouble. So I had him take my phone. Well, the problem with that is I have still not figured out how to load pictures to Instagram from my desktop. it's probably not possible unless I get like an emulator, and I've already done that once and I didn't like it very much. So I had to wait till he got back. But I did post a picture. I went ahead and finally started coloring in Color Quest. Yay, I didn't call it HeroQuest. I finally started coloring in that, and I finished my very first picture, which was the very first picture in the book. That stuff is so addicting. Like, again, I know color by number doesn't seem like much of a challenge to people, but it can be. I don't know if y'all have seen those books. They are the height of them. If you took two standard size coloring books and stacked them the opposite way, like lengthwise, a book and a half, that is the height of these books. They are huge pages. And I would highly recommend that if you do want to do them, don't start a new one right before you're supposed to go to bed. Because, as I said on Instagram, you might wind up staying up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because you get into it and you want to see what happens next. Especially if you're like me, and I wanted to go a little further up with this orange so we can get a little better blend there. But I don't want, you can see the finished pictures in the back of the book. No. That's not fair. I don't want to do that. I want to be surprised. So when I started coloring that picture, I had no idea what it was going to be. I did the background to it first and was kind of going around the edges. Silly me. I said I was going to make that a long-term project and just do like a little section each night. And that's what I tried to tell myself. And subconscious me laughed at that very idea. Like, what do you think you're doing? No, that ain't gonna be how this goes. You know better. So yeah, I said that, and then I think I stayed up that night to finish the border around the animal. I had no idea what it was going to be till I saw it. And now it's like, I don't really want to say it, because if anybody else is doing that, hasn't gotten to that picture yet, I don't want to spoil anybody. I'm going to have to put a spoiler warning on my completed pictures post. But, which at this point, it's kind of like with the Harry Potter books. If somebody gets mad at you for spoiling one of the books, at this point, you kind of just got to be like, I think the appropriate length of time has passed. So, there's a length of time there, and I think that book's been out a while. I didn't like the price of it. I thought it was higher than it should have been. But then I was like, well, why don't we just go ahead and try this and see what it's about. And then when it showed up, I had no idea it was that big of a book. And I was like, oh, well, this makes more sense. And those pictures take a long time to finish. I'm going to have to show you my new toy. I think it's in here. I had to finally suck up and get one of these. Oh my gosh. I need to... Give me just a sec. Hang on. Okay. Promise your screen didn't freeze up or the volume suddenly screw up. I actually turned the microphone off. My cats were being little jerks outside, and so my husband had to go stomping and throwing, not literally throwing them back in the house, it ain't that bad, but running them inside for the night. I don't know why lately, but they've been having more issues with each other, with the ones that hang around outside. And I know some of you are sitting there going, well, you do let them out on the screen and porch. You kind of knew that was coming. Well, first of all, the cats in the neighborhood know there are cats here. And before I had that screen porch, they would sit at this I had two windows up where the front porch is at. And every night, they would come to those windows, and my cats would know the schedule, and they'd go to the windows, and they would just torment each other all night. So it doesn't make a difference. And weirdly enough, up until the last few months, now if a cat showed up, like a neighborhood cat showed up at first, and they're kind of a new cat, there is some initial hissing and carrying on and stuff. But once they get used to seeing the cat show up, usually they're pretty cool with them. Have been for a while now. This cat in particular, like, he's been hanging around since the spring. And no, we're not pulling another Annie. He's just not coming inside the house. No. Annie was like, that was just way too stressful. Okay, well, that's kind of weird. This one didn't blend as well. I may not have been paying as much attention, but probably a reddish orange would have done us better on this. See, I did this the other night. Actually, this is a great way to do this, and I can show you compared to what I'm doing tonight versus what I did the other night, because I think that'll work too. So this picture I used more of a reddish orange combo. Nope, that's a different one. Okay, so apparently I went differently out of order. So these were the colors we used today. These were the colors I used the other day. So when you have colors that are really close to each other, you're going to have a whole lot better time of blending, obviously, than these did, at least for the Crayolas. They can blend together better than that. But that's, again, I'm trying to go with stuff I know would be in a small pack, so I'm glad I have that other one, though. That's a really good way to show the difference. Alright, let me pause this for a moment. I have to go do something, and I'll be right back. Alright, sorry about that. I had to run them in for the night and take care of a couple things, and we're gonna get right to this last one for tonight. I was sitting here thinking, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, what have we looked at so far? We've looked at Twistables, we've looked at your standard Crayola pencils. Yep. And so now we're going to look at these. I have seen these advertised for a while on Amazon and such with your standard Crayola 12-pack box. They look very similar to this. This is a Play School brand, but you know, just your standard cardboard box, that red and yellow design we all are familiar with. I've seen these pop up in different size boxes, of course. Yeah, I did. Okay, sorry. I was sitting here going, I didn't even tell you the price of the previous ones. I did. Sorry about that. So this is a set of 24. There are different size packs of these. I've seen these advertised, and they say it themselves. Coloring for grown-ups. And on the Amazon page, it says these are their premium colored pencils or something like that. So they are making a claim that these are better quality pencils, so to speak, than your student grade. And I've seen a lot of reviews stating they're the same pencils, and I wasn't about... These are certainly more expensive than the regular Crayolas, so I wasn't going to pay for a set just to compare. But of course, I saw this one at Ollie's for $2, and I said, yep, we're going to get this, and we're just going to see. So the cats are probably mad that they can't go outside anymore, so now they're messing stuff up here on the inside. Oh, no, those aren't it. I just found both of these sets, didn't I? I thought I did. Nope. Nope. So yeah, this is definitely going to be the last one we do tonight. It's kind of like when I say I'm going to be running errands in town and I'll be back in an hour or two. Nah, don't need to do that anymore because I inevitably run into somebody I know and talk to them, and then it's like 5 hours later I finally get home. Okay. Oh, that's what I did. I put them over here. Huh. That's funny. Well, kind of. Anyway, so what do the pencils look like outside the box? Now, I know this might be a question a lot of you were curious about in terms of the differences in these pencils. So, take our tape off. There we go. So, what do the coloring for grown-up pencils look like? Well, they kind of look like student grade ones. And this is what made me wonder when I saw this. The same stamp logo, the same color names on these, same size, shape. These come probably better sharpened, I'd say, than the other ones, but I mean, I don't know if that's a real plus or not. These are very easy to get mixed up with the regular ones. The only way I have figured out how to keep them separate for purposes of reviews, not that I care, I'm going to throw them all together. I don't see that significant of difference to that length. So when you look at these, the top one is the higher cost pencil and the one on the bottom is the student grade. The stamp may, the color names and the gold stamp may look a little darker. There are these numbers stamped on the barrel of the pencil, and they're like, you have to hold them up to a light to see them, and I don't even know if you guys, oh, there you go. Just a little bit of a reflection of one of them. When I was looking at them, I noticed that the student grades had the number led with 1, and the premium grade they led with 2. That is the only way I can tell these two apart, at least at a glance. So, why do I not have a blue from this set? That's very odd. Why didn't I grab that? Sorry about that. I bet because I made the last minute decision to include blue. It's probably the reason. Like, I needed this video to go any longer. There we go. It wasn't hard to find. It was a smaller pack, and that's probably why. Alright. So let's roll with this one. I've also decided that once we wrap up this one, I think I'm going to... Thank goodness I'm using my own software for this. Otherwise, this would just have to be submitted as is, so to speak, because I wouldn't be able to edit it. But what I'm going to do before I put these clips together and render it and everything, I think I'm going to record just a real quick kind of explanation, because this easily turned from I expected this part to go quickly to wow, we only got through 3 pencil sets tonight. Because the plan was to kind of review these at a glance and then down the road do more in-depth reviews. But to be honest, there's no sense in making the same video at the same time. It's just that sounds silly now that I think of it like that. So we might as well just take our time and do the in-depth ones now. So I was looking at something. Okay. So when looking at them side by side, your premium grade, like we'll just call them premium grade. Those pencils, and this held true to the other night, these pencils seem just a little more vibrant than the student grade. And that is noticeable when they come down on paper. Let's see. But in terms of pencil pressure, it's about the same. I don't see, there's not a significant difference between this and the other. Like, it's not a softer lead or anything. So, my suspicion, I get there at some point. I know, my handwriting's horrible. Yeah. I think you get about the same as you do otherwise. What I suspect, based on this, and based on the other, I guess we'll call it a second test that I ran the other night when I tried to do this video the first time, is the colors looked more vibrant there too. That was really the most noticeable difference. And so my suspicion is that Crayola decided to, where's my eraser? There we go. Crayola, for their student grade, the formula is the same. You remember me talking about the pigment versus filler thing, that your more budget-friendly pencils will have more filler than the higher middle grade or higher end colored pencils will. The middle and higher grade will have more pigment than filler, and I don't know what the actual ratio would be, but that's just a general thing to keep in mind. What I suspect Crayola did was they just changed the ratio in these pencils they're calling the Premier pencils, or the coloring for grown-up pencils, or whatever they're calling them. I think they just slightly changed the ratio to where it's a little more pigment than the student grade and a little less filler. I think that is what makes these two different, at least in the amount I've been doing right here. That's what I see. Now, if anybody else sees something more notable, please let me know. But so far, at least looking at it myself, that is what I suspect has happened. I don't, since there's just a slight difference, I usually put blue down first. Better do that. I don't want to run the risk of not being consistent. But now that ratio probably didn't change that much, because there's not a huge difference in the color quality. And because of that, I don't think it was probably a huge ratio change. I could probably go around online and find out. I'm sure something is out there on the internet that gives that information. But for all the reviews that say they're the same pencils and stuff, I don't think they are. Because especially with that stamp. Now, had the stamp been the same type of number format, I would have instantly been like, okay, I think these are the same pencil. Before I put them on this paper, of course. But with that difference in that stamp, now that just may be in the set they went in. That may have nothing to do with it. But it may also be that they have a system that, like I said, they change the ratio depending on which pencil it is. So, that is what I suspect has happened. Okay. So, the real question that this will come down to will be, oh, sorry, I got completely off track, as usual. But what I was going to say is, once I get done with this section and we call it a night, I'm also going to do a small clip to put at the beginning of this video to let y'all know that what I say afterwards is not the actual plan we went with. So that way everybody knows from the get-go what this first video is. And then I will put the spreadsheet down in the description anyway. All the prices and the notes and the links and things like that are already in there for all the pencils. So you can go in and look and see all the ones that I'm reviewing. You can go, I have the same type of chart set up for alcohol markers and gel pens. The water-based marker one will come later because I didn't have the system when I started that. So there are other tabs for that stuff, and that's where I'm going to add all my review stuff is going to be in that, and it's going to be available to anybody that wants to see it, because I am somebody that believes in giving everybody as much information as I can, because money's not easy to come by. So if I was in this situation trying to figure out what I wanted to buy, I would hope somebody would have this level of info for me. Now, even though the pigment ratio I think probably changed, it's still, like I said earlier, it's still the same level of lead Like, it still feels like a harder lead. That does not feel any different to me. So if you were hoping that was one of the differences, I'm sorry. Trust me, I love using my Crayola pencils. I love my Prismas, but I also love my Crayolas. And if they were even just a slightly softer pencil, I would probably be using them way more often. So, this little mark here was on me. I pressed down more on that. Looks to blend with a blender pencil. Let me go back over one more time. Because, like I said, I don't want to get sidetracked and do something different. It looks like it blended about the same. The same to maybe slightly worse. That is about all I can see. It's not, again, not a hugely discernible difference. But the price difference on these is a huge difference. And I know I didn't tell the price of these, other than what I found them at for Ollie's. And I will talk about that in a second, once I can pull up the spreadsheet. Again, I could not find the 24 pack of Crayola, like the premium level pencils. I can't find them anywhere. The highest pack I've seen, or the lowest pack I've seen, is the 50 count. And that might be why they were at Ollie's. They may be discontinuing the 24 set. I don't know. Like I said, I was having a devil of a time finding them. Which just leads to what I was talking about earlier that got my feathers all ruffled. When I started out with the water-based markers, like your Crayola markers and stuff, I had no problem finding the sets that I was looking at and their prices and on multiple sites. And then with the Sharpies and stuff, it got a little more difficult. But, still wasn't too bad. One of the biggest things about Sharpies is that they, like Bics and Sharpies and stuff, is that they change price all the time. I mean, you can find so many different combo packs for so many different levels of pricing, depending on the time of year and everything else. It's really hard to pin down a price, but it's usually pretty easy to find just their basic sets. The colored pencils ones were the colored pencil packs were a nightmare. A lot of these I purchased at Walmart, and of course, idiot me, if I save the receipts, they're certainly not where they should be. So I was trying to go online, and so, okay, Walmart, please improve your search engine. I went on there looking for, I don't know which ones, but one in particular was a Sergeant Art, which I did buy the 24 pack at Walmart. And let me find my water-based thing. Where'd it go? There you go. I went to Walmart's site to find the 24 pack that I had purchased in their store that is like 30 minutes away from me. Well, I searched every which way I could think of. I tried, I tried typing in the brand, I tried typing in the brand in the specific pack, and all these combinations that should have took me to an option for that particular set. No, it was every other set, every other brand. I was so mad. I went off there, and, well, I'll continue that in a minute. Alright, so the blender pencil, no big difference. I'm going to pull this up so you can see a little better, hopefully. So, blender pencil, not a big difference. Blender mineral spirits. The student grade might have done a little better. The premium, it looks a little more, just a tiny bit, what am I looking for? Splotchy. Not much, but I'm trying to note any difference. The alcohol marker difference, I don't see a vast one. The water-based, weirdly enough, it seemed to work better than the student grade, and I don't know why that would be. So we'll come back to this in just a sec for our wrap-up. Boy, Okay. So we're moving down here and we're using the same colors we were using before, which, like I said again, is probably not going to give us a good, nice, uh-oh. Okay, I see what I've done. Yeah. Oh, that's because I was looking at them earlier. Okay, see, I just had to look at that stamp. That was the only way I could tell the difference with that orange. Yeah, I'm all over the place now. See, it started out so well, and then now we're off the rails. Yeah, no, there we go. Alright, just want to get the same pencils. Again, just want to be consistent. So, where was that? We used blue for that one. As you can see, it has not, like I said, it was pretty well sharpened when I started with it, and it's moved down a bit, but for all the pressure and such that we were using, your harder leaded pencils are going to give you a lot more length of time with them. So, but anyway, so I thought, well, maybe it's just that particular brand. So I was trying to look up another one. They did the same thing. They wouldn't show me the Sergeant Art 24 pack, but they'd show me like the 50 pack, or for any other brand, it was always the higher up packs, which I get because they are trying to upsell. They are a retail company. But I mean, I couldn't even find them anywhere in the search results, even towards the end, even if I sorted them by price or whatever. Most of the time, I had to go to Google and type in that set, and Google would give me the Walmart link. I would click on it, and hey, look, there's the page. So Google knew where to find the pencils on Walmart.com more than the Walmart.com search engine did. And I find that really weird. Like I said, I understand. I'm not saying that by default you should show the cheapest sets if somebody's being vague and saying like colored pencils or budget colored pencils, or even if they're just looking for the brand and not a specific pack. But if I type in Sergeant Art 24 pack of colored pencils, I should be getting a Sergeant 24 pack colored pencils link, like not only just in the search items, but it should be search results, but it should be towards the top. That is ridiculous. So, anyway, Amazon's wasn't as bad. They're generally their deal, though. The only thing that bothers me about Amazon, and this I haven't run into this as much with the art supplies. They do the same thing where they're trying to upsell a little bit, and then if you go and sort by price, lowest to the highest, they don't always do that. They sneak some different things in, or it's either designed that way, or however the system was built just sucks. I don't know which one it is. It might be a little both. So, alright. So yeah, I was not happy. It took me probably twice as long to find all of the reference material for these colored pencils than even it did, probably the gel pens and the markers combined. It took me a couple hours. It's one of the reasons there's such a gap between these is, like I said, if I'm going to do a review, I'm going to do it right. Or at least right to me. If I wanted to know more about these pencils, this is what I would want to know. And there are tons of great reviews and ways other people do their reviews that works really well. And 9 times out of 10, I'm watching those to make a decision just to get an initial pack of these. So, you know, as I said in my disclaimer, my way is not the only way. But I would say that hopefully this helps somebody else, because I was making a lot of mistakes in terms of buying whole sets of stuff at the beginning because I liked how they looked when somebody else was coloring with them, and then I got them and I wasn't as big a fan of them. Fortunately, that didn't happen very much. the Prismacolors still are my favorite pencils. That was, buying that set was probably one of the best things I did starting out. And I did get a smaller set of that and the Faber-Castells before I bought the whole set. So, I did fairly okay, but I probably should have got the smallest set I could first. So, alright, we're at like super soft. I went back over those with yellow, I know I did. I don't know. I'm not feeling too good about that Crayola student grade. I may have done, like, completely botched that one. Let's see how this one goes. So, like I said, there will be, Lord, I said a part 2 to this series, but it's probably going to be more like a part 10. I think one of the reasons I spent so much time on Crayola pencils is because A, there were 3 different types that I happen to have. B, they are probably the most commonly known budget-friendly pencil, at least in the U.S. And they are, looks that like they are sold internationally, of course. And they are probably the most accessible colored pencils out there. I can walk into pretty much any store any type of retail store that does sell like art supplies and basic kids like school supplies. I can find a 12-pack of Crayolas. Now, one thing I will say that sounds very odd, but I have found, like with Sharpies, your best bet is to go to Walmart or Amazon for your better prices. You'd think Dollar General or Fred's would be the cheaper one to go to, especially for like a 12-pack. You might pay $2.50 for a 12-pack there that you would have paid maybe $1 or $2 at Walmart. They mark up those brands. Usually their really good deal brands are their cheaper ones. And I have a couple of those, and I'll be honest, I'm not looking forward to trying those. But I have been pleasantly surprised. Those INC gel pens I got from dollar store, too many dollar stores. Those amazed me. They worked great. They still do. So they can surprise you. I'm not saying that they can't, but I have a feeling. I was feeling the same way about the Leisure Art pencils, but I have had someone tell me that the regular pencils actually seem to work better than their premium brand, which I don't have. So when looking at this, it really does look like this blended together better here. I want to do something because this is bothering me now. Like, I am not happy with this. Let's do this one again. I'll just print out another page. Heck, I probably need to print out 3 or 4 of these now that I think about it. I thought about going back. Well, we're using flower mandalas in another part of this, but I thought about going back to that one for the initial test, but then I thought, hey, it's October, let's use something Halloween themed. And while it's easier for me to tell the difference between markers in the mandalas, whatever, it's not so easy for me with pencils because you usually don't have a large space that you can test in for multiple pencil brands. So having an image like this that basically replicates itself over is, to me, a lot better for the colored pencils themselves, because you're using the exact same area, and you can make that area as big or little as you want with these types of pictures. So, well, I may have been actually done those right. It was just really bugging me. I'm like, that's such a huge difference, and I don't feel like I did anything differently. But y'all, I guess y'all gonna get the real look. I might bring the orange up a little more. That might have been, yeah, that might have been what the problem was. Like I said, I'm really kind of out of practice with doing this anyway. For the most part, blending with three pencils, like I've got that down pretty good now. It's just I have to continuously color with some colored pencils just to keep some of the other stuff fresh. Because then I come back to this and it takes me a good 5-10 minutes to be like, oh yeah, I was doing that. So, well, I guess I'll go ahead and start talking about wrapping this up while we're doing this. So, I've basically shown y'all 3 different types of Crayolas today. And I've stated my reasons why I went with Crayola first. We went with their unusual, I guess, selection because I don't see those as much. The Twistables. Went with those first. They do have a softer lead than your standard Crayolas. Not by much, but they do. They blend very nicely. The color is pretty good. And that when I say blend, they not only blend into each other like this, but like your yellow and your blue, as we saw, also mix really well together to get you a green. It expands, even if you have a small pack of colors, that really helps expand your color, how many colors you have. So, it blended fairly well. The saturation wasn't, in using alcohol markers, using the mineral spirits and blender pencils seemed to me to be the best option for Crayolas, at least. I think for all 3 brands, that was what I saw. And I'll pull that page up here in a minute. But pigment-wise, they were not quite all there. Their pigment is a little washed out. Their yellow did look pretty vibrant, and I was pleased by that. But like the orange and it was like a darker orange. It didn't have a brown pencil, I don't think, the set I got. I've looked and looked through my pencils and I cannot find it. That doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't. It's just I would have lost it if it was me. And that's also very, very possible. I was doing a lot of reorganizing this weekend, and that involved going through all the pencils I had and setting up a different system for them. And y'all know me, if I don't drop a pencil or a marker, then y'all gotta wonder if I've been replaced with a pod person. But it's very possible I have just misplaced it. Anyway, the blend did okay. It just wasn't a super vibrant color, which nothing's wrong with that, but if that's what you're looking for, if you go by these, you're not probably going to be real happy with your result. Price-wise, they're not bad. And you don't have to sharpen them. And if you have issues with carpal tunnel, I'd say out of all the packs of these 3 brands, they are the softer brand to go with. Not by much. Not by much. Because, yeah, I think my wrist would still start hurting after using those for a period of time. Now, it may take a little longer, but inevitably they are going to wear on me. And the marker base thing earlier, that's why I did that first, because for me, it saves my wrist so much to be able to, dang, that's what's doing this. This orange just is not that vibrant. That must be what it is. Huh. Well, that's interesting. See, I'll show you the other picture for comparison, but I picked a slightly different combination here, and it's interesting to me that I'm seeing a lot of difference. So yeah, I did the heavy pressure yellow earlier, so now I'm just going over all of it for the whole burnishing and final blending. Well, yeah, I got it right there. Yeah, that's weird. I must have been doing that 2 different ways. I think I might have went softer with it. Anyway, it's not as bad in this one now as it was up here. I don't know. I apparently am very inconsistent, but one good thing that I might could try, this one that has the actual stripes, basically, is what's happening. Okay. I was trying to sit here and think about how I wanted to do this one. Now, if you've already burnished it, this may not do much good for you. As you can see, it's just not really moving any pigment around. Once you kind of press down like that, you're pretty much stuck with it. So there's that. Lost a little bit of vibrancy too, so that probably means it actually pulled up some of the pigment too. Let's try one more thing, just because I'm curious. See, this is as much of a thing for me as I figure if I'm going to sit here and test this stuff out, I might as well go ahead and record it. So anybody else that has these kinds of questions will hopefully have them answered. Okay, so this has been thoroughly saturated with this thing. Let's go back through with the blending stump, which is here. Now with mineral spirits, I will say they do leave kind of a residue, I guess, because obviously you're putting some kind of wet media to the paper. So I would suggest that if you use them, take some time, allow it to dry before touching that one again. And usually those spots won't be like it won't be permanently like wet on the paper. You can also use baby oil, which I did during one of my first pictures, and it worked really well. Now that and Vaseline tend to leave a little more residue from what I've heard others say. I didn't have any issue with that, and I used it in a Jade Summer book, and I didn't have any issue with it once it dried. So I don't know, but I'm passing that knowledge along to you. So this might have helped a little, but just not enough to really make a discernible difference. So we are going to take this one. Actually, I'm going to back it up a little. Oh, there we go. All right. So, So actually, this is a really good lesson down here. I must not have pressed down as much. And I got a lot better blend on that. And so, Crayola, we'll just call them premium. Alright, so in looking at that on this, you have your Twistable, which again, not a lot of difference between the colors. They blended together fairly well. And if you like softer, more pastel-y colors, these would be a good choice. Also, if you're very budget limited and you need something a little softer, there may be one more that is a little bit softer, but out of these 13 brands, all of them are basically hard-leaded wax-based pencils. So this might be an option to consider. The Crayola Student, when I really, I guess, bared down on the pencil, I got these distinct lines and blending, but when I softened it up a bit, I did get a nice blend. And it's certainly more vibrant than your Twistables. And when you go softer with these, your hands can last a little longer. So, and these are going to be your most readily available, just your regular student grade. The Crayola Premium, at least in this test, seems to have some more vibrancy to it. Well, not in just this test, but it's way more I can tell way more in this one than the other page. So, for a comparison, man, I'm kind of glad I did this, because now it's kind of fun. I'm giving y'all a couple different examples. Of course, ignore the Sergeant. I mean, you can see the Sergeant one. I'm not trying to hide it or something like a cliffhanger. It's not how this. It's not that dire. So here I used more of like a reddish orange, red orange combination. And this was the closest I could get with the Twistables. Again, your color variety on your Twistables is going to be a little hindered because of the fact that they actually will blend together to make colors, and all three brands, all three types seem to do that fairly well. Your Premium and your Twistables actually at a glance may have done slightly better. So you could create a lot of good new colors if you don't have any in your pack. So your color variety is going to be kind of limited with the Twistables. And I feel like those don't go up to a very high amount. Like you might, I got the 18 pack. Hang on a sec. We ain't watching that tonight. Damn. Yeah, I know. I got completely off track. So for a 30 pack, it's $6. Past that point, I'm not sure how many more come in the twistable format. Your Crayola, it ranges anywhere from 12 to 100. 12 packs, $1.84 at Walmart. The 100 pack you can find for $10, but you have to hit the sale at the right time. And I found it at Walmart. And weirdly enough, any Crayola products I found on Amazon that were being sold by Crayola were cheaper than they were on the Crayola site. So even with discounts. So I if it were me, being based in the US, I would go look at Walmart first, then at Amazon, then Crayola. And you're not going to see a lot of variety in sizes at discount stores like Fred's and stuff either. So the Crayola premium ones, there's 50. I found that on Amazon for $8, regular price. Not a terrible price, but if you compare, and granted that was on a discount. So let's say 100 regular student grade is like $15. Your 100, if that was an option with the premiums, would, if you doubled that, would be about 16. So it's a little higher. If sales are involved, it's a lot bigger discrepancy, but not a huge discrepancy with probably the normal day-to-day prices. And you do get more vibrancy out of the Crayola premium ones. And like I said, I think that's all you're paying for is just a little more pigment, which is still a whole lot better. Some people, that's still a whole lot better deal than, they still can't get like more vibrant, like more middle grade or high grade colored pencils. So this is good knowledge to have if you are looking at pencils on a budget. So yeah, these two, it was pretty much the same. They blend fairly well. They give more of a pastel-y color. Your regular student grade Crayolas, I showed y'all where I used, and that's where I'm saying this stuff's kind of weird. It may just be me, and I'm just being inconsistent tonight. That is more than likely the case. But this page I showed y'all, right here, I used the student grades for this, and it blended together pretty well. That orange might have a little bit of a line to it, but not bad. Not bad at all. So these blend together pretty good. I don't know what my deal was. If you want vibrant color, though, you're going to have to really bear down on that pencil. As I showed you with that chick, I hadn't even finished coloring it, and my hand started to hurt because of how much pressure I was having to put to get that kind of blend in color. If you go lighter with it, you get a better blend, obviously, but you're going to lose some of that vibrancy. In this one, we'll do this, because I got them backwards. This is regular Crayola from last week, and this is regular Crayola from this week. I say regular student grade. The blending, especially between these two, is pretty similar. You do get a little more vibrancy here. But again, if you look at the premium level, you get more vibrancy, because here's the two premieres. And if you look at them based on the student side, you do get a better color. So there you go. There's the key difference. If anybody was curious, and it took us forever to get to this point, this is going to be one of those things, everything you want to know about Crayola pencils is going to be in this one. So yeah, there will be timestamps, but there will only be like 3. So, or 4. So at least I guess it's not a dozen, right? And the other ones, other than the crazy art, I have 2 sets for that. Everything else is its own brand. So this won't be as big of a deal. But yeah, so final summary, and I'm probably repeating myself. If you can't put hard pressure on a pencil and you want more of a pastel-y, blendable, slightly softer lead Twistables, out of all the Crayolas. If I think best bargain is probably your Crayola Student, since they're right kind of in the middle of the pack, and you get a lot more color variety than you do the Twistables. Your Crayola Premium, I'm not even sure if they sell a 100 pack of that. It may just be 50. I'm not sure. But anyway, you may not get as much color variety with these, but you get a lot more vibrancy. And again, I think these are marked up slightly, probably because they put more pigment in them. At first, I wasn't too impressed with it, but after having two different color sets to compare against, I am a little more impressed with the vibrancy difference. So, in the future, if it wasn't like a crazy, ludicrous difference between these and the student grade, I would probably get the premiums myself, but I am huge on vibrant colors. So, the softness of the pressure is the same. They're still really hard pencils, both of them are. Erasability, it's about the same. I mean, when you look at all this other stuff, it's almost exactly the same. So with any type of blenders now, with budget grade, at least so far, your blender pencil and your mineral spirits look like they're going to give you what you're looking for if you're looking for taking out some of that white space. Alright, well, sorry this took so long, but this is going up because I'm not recording this a third time. So, yay! Hopefully you know all you want to know about Crayolas now, at least on the colored pencil side. I'm not even going to say what we're going to cover on the next one because every time I say, it seems like I jinx myself. So we're just going to start the next one. We're just going to be like, okay, well, we're going to cover some more, and after a certain length of time, we're just going to stop. We'll get through all these eventually. So anyway, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Again, I spend a lot of time putting this stuff together, which is stuff I want to know myself anyway, but I really hope this helps someone out there, because I've seen reviews and I've seen comparisons and everybody does it differently, and I've learned a lot from all of them. But if you really just want to get down to the nitty-gritty of them, it's like this. So hopefully it's helpful. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. I won't air part 2 right after this. We'll probably move into our color and chat, and I think I know what I want to do there. But I ain't recording that one until tomorrow. So anyway, thanks for hanging around, guys, and bye for now.